It's mid-December. We're drawing near to Christmas time, which means we have reached the home stretch, the money time of the NFL regular season, which inevitably means we only have a few weeks more this year to talk about Bears football. And that's what we're going to do here in this video. Because you've got an interesting, and some would say like important matchup coming up on Sunday as the Chicago Bears travel to the Dog Pound to take on the Skid Marks, also known as the Cleveland Browns. And speaking of Bears football, here you go again. Bears fans getting excited for mediocrity yet again. What are your telltale signs of a Bears football? Defense? Running the ball? Inconsistent mid-ass quarterback play? And most importantly of all, celebrating mediocrity. Instead of worrying about championships, trying to slide in the back door to the last seed in the playoff race. That, my friends, is truly Bears football. And that's where we're at. Because the Bears sit at 5-8. And watch out! They've won 2 in a row against the Vikings and the Lions. My God, they're figuring it out. They're in the hunt. So you're telling me there's a chance? Theoretically, sure. But mind you, there are 5 6-win teams ahead of the Bears right now in the NFC. And there's even a 5-win team due to tiebreakers that's ahead of them in the Giants. That's a lot of teams to jump. Even if you're smoking that hopium and saying, oh, the Bears are going to win their last 4 games. They're going to end the season on a 6-game winning streak. And they're going to go into the playoffs with a ton of momentum. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, God. Here it comes. We got to run it back. Trade away that number 1 pick. Build around Justin Fields. That's what you do. I mean, it's a vicious, never-ending cycle. It is the mediocrity of the McCaskey way. And Bears fans, many of them, are so dumb and addicted to it that they don't see the problem with their addiction. The first step to dealing with and overcoming an addiction is acknowledging that you have a problem. And Bears fans, by and large, seem to refuse to want to do that. Now, certainly they're going to point to, in this recent stretch of games, the Bears, they're 5-4. Man, they're turning it around if you take away that start to the season, which, is not how anything fucking works at all. It's part of the totality of the picture here. Then they'll say, oh, they're certainly playing better on defense. And statistically, yes, they have been better on defense recently, right? And I can't take away the fact that the Lions are a legit opponent, even if they're not playing their best football right now offensively and defensively. The Bears only allowed 13 points against the Lions. So that does say something. But then we start getting carried away because then it's like, oh, they held down the Vikings. The Vikings are so bad, they scored 10 points with Josh Dobbs, who was so bad himself, that come the next week against the Raiders, they were scoreless in the 4th quarter and had to bench Josh Dobbs to go with Nick Mullins. Context matters. Are we forgetting last time the Bears played the Lions and they gave up 29 points on defense, including 2 touchdowns in the last 4 minutes? You really going to point to the Panthers game? The Panthers? Oh, they only allowed 13 points to the Panthers, for God's sakes. We want to talk about context. Let's talk about full fucking context here. And to the people that still keep stubbornly insisting that Justin Fields is the guy, and he's the same type of Trubisky yo-yo type of quarterback that he's always been. He'll make a couple of great plays, certainly does. And they get you bought in on the bullshit. And then he makes a bunch of head-scratching ones, misses wide-open guys, misses reads, freaking eats way too many sacks. Like the same old shit. But if you're a Bears fan right now and you want to sit there and continue to justify to yourself why you support this shitty-ass franchise, you're looking at the hopeful side, the glass runneth over side. And there certainly is a path, depending on your perspective, for this Bears team to either win out and finish 9-8 or lose out and end up 5-12. Both are certainly possible. And I think a lot of it depends on how you want to look at things and what your perspective is. Now, as far as the Cleveland Browns go, this is probably a season for the Browns that in some ways, in terms of the results, is playing out how they would have liked to, but not the way that they went about it, right? Like, you don't make that massive trade for Deshaun Watson, have it be your defense that carries the fucking day, and for Deshaun Watson to be a bitch and then end up being out for the year, and that's exactly where we're at. But the Browns are 8-5, coming off of a big victory last week against the Jaguars, 31-27. And think about this, how crazy this sounds. If I went in a time machine and told you this was going to happen 10 years ago, you told me I was nuts. In 2023, the Cleveland Browns won a game with Joe Flacco as their starting quarterback, throwing for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's something, ain't it? The Browns and Jags in December were playing a damn meaningful game. And it was Joe Flacco throwing for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns to lead the Browns to victory. Holy shit. And that's where we're at, though. And the Browns currently sit in the 5th slot in the AFC playoff picture, and they've had some solid, impressive wins this year. You know, against a number of playoff teams, playoff contenders, the Bengals, the 49ers, the Colts, the Ravens, the Steelers, the Jags last week. Like, whereas the Bears are beating teams with young and backup quarterbacks, and then the Lions, you know, the Browns have beaten some legit folks this year. And that success is largely driven, like I mentioned a moment ago, by their great defense led by coordinator Jim Schwartz. They're first against the pass and first in total yards allowed. So they're a tough team, been a tough team to move the ball against during the course of the year. Although their defense has started to soften up a little bit lately. They gave up 27 points to the Jags, 34 to the Rams, 27 to the Broncos. You know, so they're giving up points. You can score against this defense, especially recently. And this is a team on both sides of the ball that's been absolutely gutted by injuries, and it's only getting worse for them. Like, if you look at offense, Deshaun Watson out for the year. Nick Chubb is out for the rest of the year and has been since early on. Same thing with Jack Conklin. Jedrick Wills is on injured reserve. DeJuan Jones is on injured reserve. So your bookend young tackles that play at a decent to high level, out. Ethan Posich, the center, he's out. So you're down to 40% of your starting offensive line in Bitonio and Teller for the Browns. Not a good spot to be in. Defensively, you know, losing Juan Thornhill, Maurice Hurst is out now on IR, Rodney McLeod on IR, Grant Delpit now on IR, Okoronkwo on IR. Couple of guys questionable heading into this game. Like, the Browns feel like they've been bitten by the injury bug, and you wonder, like, if that's karma for, like, doing what they did with Deshaun Watson. I don't know. But, you know, for a Browns team, you know, it's a lot of injuries, but they're still in a pretty powerful spot right now. When they lose this one to the Bears, it starts to get real hot, and it becomes increasingly less likely that this team would make the playoffs. So this is a must-win for them, and it is frankly a must-win for the Bears if you think that they have any shot at the playoffs at all. Like, the Bears can't have any playoff visions and lose this one. And I expect this game on Sunday to actually be played with some form of playoff urgency. The current betting odds have the Browns as 3-point favorites at home with the over-under of 38. Ooh, that over-under is low, but it feels right for it to be low like that. In terms of keys to victory for both teams, for Cleveland, they need a marquee performance from Myles Garrett. You know, this is where your stars, or in this case, your superstars, your elite players, have to help you overcome the losses of some of these other guys. They're the guys that have got to step up. They're the guys that have got to carry the weight for you. And defensively, Myles Garrett is that motherfucker. He has to be that dude on Sunday. Offensively, they've got to find ways to protect Joe Flacco. 60% of their starting offensive line is out for right now, right? Without your bookend tackles, not a great place to be. Flacco's not a mobile guy. He's a statuesque pocket passer. He's going to take some hits. He's going to take some sacks. So you got to figure out how you're going to protect him, right? Run a little more max protect. Keep your back in the backfield to help chip and block. They've got to protect him. And then in the passing game, they've got to get David Njoku involved. He got highly involved early against the Jags on Sunday. They need to go to him early and often and force the Bears to try to defend the middle of the field. Meanwhile, for Chicago, you know, I talk about it all the time, right? 10-plus touches for DJ Moore. Whether it's targets, touches, whatever you want to say. This time it's touches. Like, He's your stud on offense. Find a way to give him the fucking ball. It is not that hard, and I want to repeat again, it is not that hard. And it confounds me how often offensive coordinators and teams can't figure this out. Like, I don't want to hear your excuses or bullshit. Get your ball into the hands of your best playmakers. The Bears did that last week, and it's a big reason why they won. Justin Fields has to avoid sacks. He just does. There is no excuse. Like, he has to be able to avoid sacks better. You're going to be like, oh, he bails out of the pocket sometimes to make spectacular plays. The basic pocket passer shit. He has to avoid some of those back-breaking sacks that kill momentum on a drive, that kill Bears field position. And then defensively, I talked about Myles Garrett needs to step up and be that dude. For a lot of Bears fans right now that have looked at some of the early returns of Montez Sweat and say, man, it's made all the difference in the world, while ignoring other key contexts. Like, if Montez Sweat's supposed to be a fucking dude for this team and the dude for this defense, this is the game to show up. If Montez Sweat comes out of this game against a freaking Browns offensive line without Dawand Jones, without Jedrick Wills, with a statuesque Joe Flacco in the pocket, and Sweat doesn't have multiple sacks, that's a problem. Oh, double team. Double team my ass. That's a problem. This has to be a marquee Montez Sweat performance. Period. In terms of this matchup, like I said, I do expect it to be played with a playoff intensity. I know a lot of Bears fans are getting themselves hyped up on social media this week, talking about all the injuries the Browns have. But they still have some key guys. I'm going to take the Browns at home 20-17.